Often symbiosis really means close association, which may begin with a parasitism, but then later becomes mutualistic. So in my lab I study several systems that involve both symbiosis as well as mutualism and parasitism. The fig and fig wasp system is very old. It's believed to have evolved around somewhere around 80 million years ago. So from 80 million years, the fig and the fig wasp have been very closely associated. So the fig symbiosis is all about figs developing nurseries for fig wasps. So the fig wasps enter these nurseries, which are enclosed inflorescences, and they pollinate the fig flowers within these nurseries, and also develop eggs the wasps lay eggs within these nurseries. So therefore it is a nursery pollination mutualism. What's special about this mutualism is that it is highly species specific and very obligate. And because it's obligate, so there are about over 800 species of fig trees in the world today, which are largely within the tropical and subtropical areas of the world. And of these 700 or 800 species of figs, most usually every species of fig, with very few exceptions, have their own specific species of pollinating fig wasps, which means therefore that this tree and this tiny fig wasp are very intimately associated. The wasp breeds inside the fig, and the wasp helps the fig to produce seeds. And the wasp cannot breed anywhere else in any other tree species, which means that this relationship is very, very tight. Symbiosis, the process of symbiosis, is a generator of biological diversity. Yes? Simple way to understand this: we have millions of cells in our body. Within every cell in our body, we have an organelle called the mitochondrion. The mitochondrion is a symbiotic organism. It evolved as a symbiotic organism, got incorporated into another organism. So now you had a joint organism that was built and that formed, the first eukaryotic cell. And from that first eukaryotic cell, you had a proliferation of life on Earth. So we now know that symbiosis generates biological diversity. So similarly, in the fig and fig wasp system, it is a generator of biological diversity, because the fig tree and its wasp, pollinating wasp, has many other taxa like parasitic wasps, nematodes, ants, seed dispersal agents, etc., all of which are developing within this microcosm.
I worked with Professor Renee Borges for my PhD, and the project focused on oviposition strategies in fig wasp parasitoids. The project was quite challenging, and it trained me a diverse set of skills ranging from oviposition behavior, chemical ecology, developmental biology, sensory ecology, and electrophysiology. And it was this training which has proved instrumental in shaping my career and reaching my current position in the insect farming industry, where I'm leading a team working on black soldier fly for waste management and a source of animal protein for future.
In our lab, we have studied yet another mutualistic interaction between fungus-forming termites and their crop fungus. Mutualistic fungus is cultivated on partially digested plant matter called fungus comb inside the nest and is harvested by termites for nutrition. A former PhD student from our lab, Laksh, has investigated on how fungus growing termites defend its fungal forms from parasitic fungi. Another student, Nikita, examined a very different and interesting aspect of mound construction in termites. Termite mounds are considered to be architectural marvels which stand strong for decades together, unaffected by the winds and rains. Her work has shed light on structure and properties of these mounds and important aspects of material choice and usage by termites while building their nest.
Ant plants or myrmecophytes. Such plants, as the name suggests, myrmeco referring to ants and phyta meaning plants, have a very special relationship with ants. Such plants invite ants, not just any kind of ant, but really aggressive and territorial ants to come to the plant and live on them and protect the plant. So, in order to invite the ants, the plant produces special shelters called domatia and food. The shelters could be a modification of the leaf or the branch or the internode, so that there is a hollow chamber in which the ants can set up their colonies. And the food is usually in the form of extrafloral nectar, nectar which is away from the flower, usually found in the leaves, or food bodies, which are solid food bodies, which are rich in fat and proteins.
I did my 1 year master's project and my PhD on a very fascinating ant plant called Humboldt brunonis. So Humboldt brunonis is not a very tall tree. It's not a canopy tree, but it's an understory tree that is found quite densely distributed in the wet evergreen forests of the western. I studied this plant and its interactions across 6 sites, which we chose in the state of Karnataka. So this ant plant is extremely fascinating. It is found only, in the Western Ghats and some parts of Sri Lanka. And this plant offers some benefits to the ants and the insects, that live in those regions. So we studied the dynamics and the intricate relationship that this plant has with the various species of insects in these regions. So one benefit that this plant offers is in terms of housing. So here you can see there is a hollow stem internode, which is called a domatia. And this hollow stem internode provides space for various species to live. So we studied what are the various species. They are not only ants, but we discovered a new bee species that lives inside this domatia. There's an arboreal earthworm that lives there and various
Found
other
that there is
insects.
a context dependency in the rewards that is provided by the host plant. The plant provides more rewards and richer rewards for the protective ants only in those places where there is greater herbivory. And then they significantly reduce the amount of herbivory that this plant suffers. In addition, we also found that the other non-protective ants and the earthworm, they provide nutrition to the host plant. And how is this done is that the debris that is collected in the nest of such uh, invertebrates and non-protective ants, the debris that comes from, say, their defecation, carcass, or other kinds of waste that is collected in the nest is broken down and is absorbed. Another thing that we found is that There are fungus. A fungal mat lines the inner wall of the domatia, and this fungus is very similar to fungus that is reported in other systems, where is kind of a mutualistic fungus, which helps to break down uh, the ant waste or the waste of the insects, and the broken down waste is then absorbed by the plant. More simpler simpler substances that can be absorbed by the plant, and then it goes into the plant's vasculature. The important thing that my study has found is that it supports an earlier study which shows that plants that have dementia, the Humboldt plants that have dementia, have higher fruit set than those which do not have dementia. So from our study, the evolution of dementia is not just for protection benefits, but also from the trophic benefits that are received by the host plant from non-protective insects, non-protective
My
ants as
favorite
well.
parts were the field work for this study. We went to, the real interior, dense jungles of Western Ghats. One is first to scout for sites, to see where the plant is found, and then to study its various interactions and the intricacies and the dynamics of these interactions. So we also had to collect some samples and do some experiments and a lot of observations in these parts. And I keep saying we because I was very fortunate to work with some very committed and very talented field assistants and lab assistants and project assistants. So I would like to thank all of them um, for their uh, efforts and for their time.